of the Sixers and what happened yesterday in what looked to be Madison Square Garden South. Oh, talk about a heartbreaker. Let us go to one of the guys I love. He does such a great job for the All Sixers show. Devon, Derek, and of course that man right here, Kyle Neubeck. Kyle, oh my God, it was horrible yesterday.
I see you wore a black shirt for the funeral we're all having for the Sixers season today. So it feels very appropriate.
Dude, I mean, can you make some sense? What, and you'll appreciate this as a Philadelphian. You understand this town, right? The one thing you can't do is get beat on heart. You can't have a team, and I don't mean Josh Hart. You can't get out-hearted.
And I think what really stings about that fourth quarter with all the offensive rebounds is that was a small ball lineup for New York. That was not like Mitchell Robinson or Hartenstein. That was Deuce McBride and Jalen Brunson in the backcourt. It's Precious Achiuwa, who he's an undersized center. It is Josh Hart, who he's changed this series in so many ways. But yeah, like I think what really stings if you're a Philadelphian about this Knicks team is that's the sort of team that I think this city would really rally behind, right?
Duh.
They're tough. They play
it's the
defense.
2001 Sixers all over again.
Brunson is sort of that AI-ish guard at the head of the snake who, look, frankly, he got carried the first two games of this series and looked like his role players are going to have to win it for him. Sixers had a great game plan against him, but all credit to him. The series turns to Philadelphia. He's obviously comfortable in the Wells Fargo Center where he played so many games while he was at Nova, and he has now transformed back into the Jalen Brunson that we all know. So, you give full credit to the Knicks, but it's hard to swallow the errors, the rebounding, the turnovers, all the stuff that we're seeing from the Sixers that have allowed New York to claw their way to a 3-1 lead.
16 points in the fourth quarter. 16 points. So there's a couple things. One, Embiid was completely out of gas. I got to ask you, why didn't Nick Nurse can't play him the entire second half and expect anything other than him tugging at his shorts 35 feet from the basket during key possessions to end the game?
Well, and the worst part is, even as tired as he was basically the only guy making plays on defense too, right? Like he made 3 or 4 plays to force turnovers, block shots, whatever.
Yeah.
The rest of these guys are all just getting pantsed by Brunson or somebody else throughout that whole time. But I 100% agree with you, right? Like this season in so many ways was, I don't want to call it a gap year, but it was sort of a pause year where they're saying, hey, look, we're keeping our picks, we're keeping our assets, we're going to load up for free agency and potential trades and what have you. And look, we have this team of role players around Joel. We're going to see what happens. Well, you get to the playoffs, and the head coach clearly has no trust in the role players that are supposed to be the spine around Joel, right? So when we can all see, we all know Joel's hurt. We all know he's dealing with the knee. We all know he's dealing with the face. And we've watched Joel's entire career. He has never played an entire second half of a game. Even when he's played major minutes, it's been, all right, you get 2 minutes of rest here, and then we got to bring you back in. They have no confidence that they can do anything without him on the floor. And when that's the case for a guy who's at, I don't know, let's say 70, 75%, it's not to say that he is not to blame for what's happened, right? He's the star player. He's responsible for the team lives and dies with him. But to not be able to buy him 2, 3, whatever minutes of rest for him, it just seems impossible that we're still at this point, because this is the same conversation we were having 5 years ago against Toronto when it was Boban and Greg Monroe and whoever it was. It just, and to your point about the offense, the 16 points in the fourth quarter, that to me is where the game was lost. Like the rebounding was terrible. If you go back and watch that fourth quarter, and I would not advise anybody in Philadelphia to do so and drive yourself crazy.
Were tragically bad, their possessions.
Just like Tyrese Maxey, deer in the headlights. Joel missing every shot that he took. They're double and triple teaming him in the post on certain possessions. And I think the fatigue factor, if you could see it on offense, is that they weren't running pick and rolls. It was either you're throwing the ball to Joel in the post, or he's a static target, and that invites all the pressure that New York can throw at him, or he's standing in the corner, and he's basically just serving as a well-paid decoy. So I thought the offense was just abysmal in that fourth quarter, and some of it is the fatigue. Some of it was just a complete lack of execution from these guys.
Yeah, I was surprised how bad it looked horrible. So where does Nick Nurse go? Like, here's the issue. Like, Oubre stepped up. All right, Oubre played well. Kyle Lowry, there's so much he could do at 38 years old. Again, the Tobias Harris issue reared itself. 10 points, 8 boards, and just a ghostly performance. Just, again, coming up small, not rebounding the way he should. He just kills you.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to just throw in, like, if you wanted to put a new player in this series at this point, like, let's say they wanted to get KJ Martin or Ricky Council and throw some athleticism at the Knicks, where that's been the big separator between these two teams. You're going to throw one of these guys into a series having not played a minute in the 5th game and a do or die on the road at Madison Square Garden. Like, I feel like if that was the case, if you thought that's what you needed, that you needed to pull that trigger somewhere earlier in the series, right? Like, yeah. I think that ship has probably sailed. So a lot of this to me comes down to the offensive process. Like, you can't just let the offense devolve into, hey, Joel, go figure something out. Go do something. Hey, Tyrese, you got to beat somebody off the dribble. Like, they need to be stars for them to win, but there also needs to be like actual offense being run at the end of games. It's where I would start. And then on top of that, Brunson has clearly found his shooting boots, right? Last 2 games, he's been very good. I mean, game 4 is probably the best game anyone's had in the series. Him and Joel with the 50 ball are neck and neck, I guess. You're going to have to trap him more. You're going to have to double him more. You're going to have to get the ball out of his hands and make this a role player game. If Josh Hart hits a bunch of threes again, if Deuce McBride hits a bunch of threes, he's been very good in this series, I think you have to live with it, because you can't go down with Jalen Brunson just walking possessions down, playing one-on-one basketball. He's too good to allow him to do that.
It's interesting because I vacillated on it, because at some point I said, let Brunson get his and just take away everybody else, and it worked. In game 3, it felt like that's, and it should, untruthfully, it should have worked yesterday. Like, if you have you scored 36 points in the second half. Like, if you have any kind of offensive flow, they win that game. And Jalen Brunson, God bless his heart, I'd rather him score 47. It's the same thing with Iverson back in the day. They were like, look, we'll let Iverson spend himself and he can go get 50, but we'll be able to play the role players straight up and take them out of the game. And those guys are energy players, right? Ultimately, It was the Sixers offense that failed them, I thought.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. If you want to point the finger at Joel for anything, I think the fourth quarter, he left it all out there, had nothing left. Where this game was lost, to me, was in the third quarter. They go up double digits. New York's still struggling to score.
Yeah.
They're mostly being kept off the glass. And Joel had 3 awful turnovers. Just like one bad miscommunication with Tyrese on the sideline, 2 passes to Kelly Oubre on cuts that were just wild passes, missed the target, off his hands, whatever. And that's a stretch of the game. You could have taken this lead from 10 points to maybe 15, 20 points. And then you're going into the fourth quarter with a sizable lead. And we're not having a debate about, hey, do you need to play Joel? Can you trust Paul Reed? Can you trust these guys to not get absolutely killed? And so a lot of people focus on what didn't Joel do in the fourth quarter? What didn't the team do in the fourth quarter? You have to value every possession in a playoff game every quarter. You can't go through 3 to 4 minute stretches at a time where you're in la-la land and you're just like making basic execution errors and you're giving the ball to a team that is turning one possession into 3 or 4 shots basically every time. Like, it just cannot happen. And it was especially shocking to me because to open that game, Joel's passing was great. They had a lot of design looks to use him as a passer, use their cutters, use
Yeah, five
their
dimes in the
athletes.
first quarter.
Right. So he's moving the ball. He's seeing the floor well. And as you get deeper into the game, just careless stuff with the basketball. That's where I think this game turned. And look, credit to Brunson because he carried them in that quarter. But Joel just wasn't good enough then. And that had a huge impact on the game.
Yeah, which I actually think at that point he shouldn't have been on the floor. Like I would have been resting him at that point. He had rested him in game 3 and brought him back, let him play the whole fourth quarter, which I think is the rhythm for him. If you get him significant rest in the third quarter, at least at the 5.5 minute mark, 5 minute mark, and then you get him some rest. Because he just had nothing. Now, is Hield completely just freaked and has no confidence? I mean, the last time we saw him, it was just bad. So Nurse is locking him to the bench?
Yeah, I just think at this point he's chosen Campaign over him because Campaign has plenty of issues. I think certainly defensively is where you go first, but whatever you want to say about him, Campaign has no fear of this moment. I mean, it's 2 big shots in the fourth quarter when it looked like the game was maybe getting away from them a little bit. And I think for role players, the mentality you come in with is as important as absolutely anything in a playoff series because the ball can't swing to Buddy Hield, Campaign, whoever it is, and you can't turtle up, right? Like that's the one thing you cannot accept because you know it as well as I do. In these tightly contested defensive series, you're not always going to get a great shot. Sometimes the best shot you're going to get is an okay look. And I think Buddy, having not played in the playoffs before, he's in his 30s. This is his first ever postseason series. He doesn't seem to understand that the quality looks are much lower quality in this type of format. And so he has not adjusted to how tight, how physical this series is. I can't imagine after being benched that Nick is pulling him out for a do or die up in New York.
So, and that's my question, Kyle. And Kyle Neubeck, who's done such a great job, our All Sixers show with Devon Givens, Derek Bodner. What do you got for Game 5? Like, we know that we could play around with the whole thing. Like I did it in my head. You do the whole, hey, you play house money, you win in New York, now you come back and, oh, it's home court. Oh, great. Then it's Game 7. Like, you can play that game. But in reality, how deep does this team have it in them, in their DNA, to suck it up and actually come up big and forget about 3 straight, and they win in Game 5 tomorrow night?
I do think so, only because, like, if you just look at the series, it's a series that's essentially been decided by 4 points. Right? Like the margins in this series are so small. Now you would still say New York is more likely to win, right? Because they have done a better job at all these things we're talking about, at the margin plays, the hustle plays, the rebounds, the lack of turnovers when it counts in the fourth quarter. So you would still say the Knicks are favored. Can the Sixers win though? Of course. Like I still think Joel and Tyrese for the duration of the series have been very good. They didn't come through for them down the stretch in Game 4. But I don't think it's not like when they've played Boston, right? Where I think they go to Boston and those guys are just spooked across the board. They've lost so many times to the Celtics over the years that it sets in your head. I think they've had plenty of success at Madison Square Garden and in New York. And I think, frankly, if not for some officiating shenanigans at the end of Game 2, the series is tied 2-2. So I don't think they're going up there prepared for an execution. But I think if they play the way they did at the end of Game 4, it doesn't really matter. That we're all just playing out the string here.
Can they win without Embiid scoring 40 and Maxey scoring 30?
Probably not. And I think that's the big lesson of this series, right? Like I wrote in the story at PHLY today, Anthony, that OG Anunoby was the swing player for that game yesterday, right?
Yeah, he was.
And he represents the difference in approach from these two teams during this season. The Knicks said, we have our star. We've got assets. We got flexibility. We're pushing some chips in. We want to go get a real guy, a guy who can play. I think he played almost 47 minutes yesterday, defended all 5 positions, including defending Joel Embiid. I think he had like 14, 16, something like that, rebounds yesterday. Huge difference maker in that game. The Sixers' biggest acquisition at the deadline is the guy we just talked about who cannot get on the floor. And so, look, like the Knicks role players have just been better. They are a better equipped team across the board. And so the Sixers have 2 options. Either Joel and Tyrese have star level performances and they have a chance to win, or they're not winning games in this series. That's been made clear by the first 4 games. So either Embiid and Maxey have big ones in game 5, or you and I will be sitting here later this week talking about a season that was and where it all went wrong.
Oh, man. All right, brother. Keep up the great work. All right, we love you, buddy. Thank you.
Good to see you. See you,
Here he
cuz.
is, Kyle Neubeck.
We all silly like the mayor.